I've tried to say before that, without uh, meaning to sound pretentious or anything like that, that we shouldn't get too fixed on the way things are at any present time, at any particular time in history, because things on this side of heaven, things are always in flux, always in flux. So, yeah, in 2026 things have gotten really bad, but they've also gotten better because actions invite reactions. And I want to speak about a particular example of this now. Um, there's a certain hymn, maybe you know it, maybe you're not familiar with it, called "Onward, Christian Soldiers." I remember hearing this hymn maybe a couple of times when I was a little kid in my church. I grew up Lutheran, ELCA Lutheran. Um, and then at some point, it disappeared. It was pretty much expunged. Um, the chorus goes, "Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus flowing on before." And so the song uses warlike imagery to invite the believer to stand up and fight for what he believes in. Um, it's of course metaphorical, but the metaphor that it uses is the metaphor of war. And in the early '80s, in the late '70s and the early '80s, it was sort of like, yeah, we really don't want. Well, this brings to mind a lot of negative. This brings to mind. We don't want people to think that we want to fight another crusade or anything like that. We want people to know that we're peaceful. We're peaceful. We don't want to sing about war. We don't want to have a hymn about Christian soldiers. I mean, that just sounds fascist. I mean, this is what people were saying. I was giving them a whinier voice than they maybe were necessarily taking on, but that was basically what they were saying, and I'm not exaggerating. But recently, it occurred to me to look up this hymn online and see what people were saying about it. And I did find it in a few places online, and just about every comment was like, "Fuck yeah!" Deus Vult, Christ is King. There's a new, of course, pro-church militant kind of perspective out there, and it's among the young. All right, that's the thing. That's what's so interesting about it. This whole peacenik perspective, this whole we need to get rid of warlike imagery because that's just bad. That's like seen as boomer crap, because it is. The young people are saying they want hymns like "Onward, Christian Soldiers" to prevail again, or at least when they hear them, when they come across them online, they don't say, "Ooh, yikes, yikes!" Don't you love how the woke people, when somebody says something they don't like, they respond by saying, "Yikes." I love passive aggressiveness like that. So it's so charming. But I didn't see any yikes comments. It was all gung ho. Yeah, it's a gung ho kind of hymn. Again, it's not saying, it's not getting specific. It's not saying find the unbelievers and kill them wherever they are. or anything like that. It's just saying fight, you know. Um, and so this is a trend. I've talked about extraordinary trends that I never would have thought I would see. I never thought I would see young men speaking out strongly against pornography, against the effects of pornography. Like growing up in the 70s and 80s, finding young men who were against pornography, that was a pretty hard sell. I mean, even the ones who pretended to be against it weren't really against it. They were just putting it in front. But today, young men. Of course, not all young men. No group is a monolith. But it is young men who are leading the charge against social permissiveness, and a hymn like "Onward, Christian Soldiers" is now, seen as based. So when the whole idea that you can say something that a few years ago they would have just said, "Oh, yikes, that's really offensive. That's so offensive." And today you can say it, and people will say, "Hey, that's based, man. That is based." The word based, the very existence of the word based, seems to have gone a long way towards making things that were ideologically forbidden cool again among some people, among a lot of people, among a significant demographic. So this is another one of those things that's interesting to see. Interesting from my perspective, because it would have been hard to imagine. I saw something yesterday where Gen Z men are the first generation where the men are more religious than the women are. That's the first time that's happened, like in maybe in recorded history. That I don't know how they came up with this. I mean, it was some study, and I don't know. I can't go into the heuristics of the study or anything like that, but it tracks. I mean, it tracks with what we have seen and what we have observed, and what seems to be the case among Gen Z men. So, again, everything is always in flux. So don't ever get too up and don't ever get too down. Don't think things are going to be great forever, because, of course, they aren't. Once things that are based become, mainstream, if that happens, if that comes to happen, then there will be a group that rises up against the baseness again, and the cycle will go on, and it will no longer be cool. But it's interesting that now we live in a time where things like that are widely considered cool, where a hymn like "Onward, Christian Soldiers" and having ideological perspectives that would have been, just that. I mean, again, I think I might have said this about John Rocker before, and he had, John Rocker was a pitcher. I'm not going to go into all the details now, but he was a pitcher for the Atlanta Braves, and he was quoted in Sports Illustrated saying a lot of things that were deemed racist and sexist and what have you. And people just mostly just came out against him, and you know, it was. Whereas today, if those words were, uh, if John Rocker, if a John Rocker equivalent were quoted saying what John Rocker said in the year 2000, if that happened in 2026, yes, it would still get condemned by the you know, the liberal establishment, but there would be a ton of places where people would be saying, "Tell me where he's wrong." You know, I don't see anything erroneous about this, and or just they just say based John Rocker. So that's where we are, and the trick is just not to neither to get too up or too down, but just to be aware that actions invite reactions, and so you know, until the end of time, until this is all finally settled, until the apocalypse finally happens, which everybody thinks is, a lot of people think is about to happen, you know, in the next few months. I'm dubious about that. I think things will just lumber on. If not as before, they'll, you know, I don't think we're facing an impending apocalypse, but I don't know, maybe we are. But until the apocalypse happens, it's just going to be like that, and things will always be in flux. And there you have it.